and welcome to Finance Friday, where I have my old friend, we have known each other for a long time, Jennifer Gomez, Esquire, estate planner extraordinaire, who's going to tell us a little bit about things you have to worry about if you're moving to Florida. And a lot of you are moving to Florida, so Jen, I'm going to let you just hop right in. What do you do if you move from another state? Is it a problem to now be in Florida? Does your old stuff still stay in effect? Do you have to make changes?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things to consider. Definitely, anytime you move state or country, it's time to review everything with an attorney that's licensed in the place that you're moving to, just to make sure that anything that might be handled differently in that state, that you can account for it, because there's a lot of things that are similar from one state to another, but there's also a lot of nuances, and you want to make sure you take advantage of that. Florida in particular, I think, differs from a lot of the other states because it's such a popular place to retire. So it's also a really popular place to have probate and estate administrations.
Heaven's waiting room, right? That's what they call us.
Yes, exactly.
Hopefully heaven. Maybe not in Florida, actually. We have some.
Yeah. So, some of the big things people want to change is they may upgrade to a trust-based estate plan. Even if they didn't have that previously, they might have been using a will-based estate plan. But in Florida, the probate court process is a lot more involved than it is in a lot of other states. So we want to make sure that they have a mechanism to avoid the need to get stuck in probate court if that's something that they want to stay out of, because it adds a lot of time delays and costs for their family. So most people don't intend to put their estate through probate.
Yeah, that sounds like that's something that could definitely trip people up, because if you're coming from one place and you've had, your attorney there set everything up, and now you come here and it sounds like very different. At least to me, it sounds very different. Like, do you know what states that it's specifically very different than Florida? Like, is New York or California one of those states? Because we have a lot of people coming down from those particular areas.
Yeah, I don't know as much of the nuances of other states' laws because I'm only licensed in Florida. I tend to know a lot of the states where we get a lot of transplants. So a lot of people coming from Connecticut or states with a state estate tax, they can actually simplify their estate planning now because they don't need to do as much to account for the taxes. And so they can actually make things a little bit simpler and easier for their family later, so long as they don't have federal estate tax issues.
So that, makes me so happy to hear when you have tax considerations, because, I guess I never thought about it, because in Florida, I guess we don't have estate taxes. Mm-hmm. We don't have income taxes. It's such a great place because we don't have those things. I guess it didn't really occur to me that there are states where you're going to pay estate income taxes. It's a little hard to say. Oh, wow. So that's like, check one more off for moving to Florida. That's a great thing.
Yeah.
So what about people like who feel like they maybe don't need an estate, or, like, I don't have enough to really create a trust? Like, do you have a reason that people who maybe think that it doesn't apply to them should consider it?
Yeah, it's such a case-by-case basis. So really they should sit down with an attorney and go over some of the different factors in their life that might lead them towards having a trust-based plan or not. For any of my clients that own businesses or real estate, we tend to go more towards trust-based plans, because if you're dealing with a time delay of probate, then there's also that time delay where there's upkeep expenses for your home or rental property or your business. So it's going to add to the cost, because who's paying the property taxes in the meantime? Who's paying the electric bill in the meantime? Things like that, where if you can avoid the need to go through probate, someone can sell your real estate very quickly. They can sell a business quickly and hopefully get the highest possible price for the business because it's still functioning smoothly. So those are things that definitely motivate a trust-based plan. Also, sometimes it's based on the person who's going to end up receiving the inheritance, because if they're under 18, or if they have special needs, or if they're bad with money, we might want to put some extra mechanisms and control to make sure that the money or the other assets are going to be managed for them properly.
That makes a lot of sense. And it definitely makes sense that you need to talk to an expert and not just kind of be like, I don't need it, because you really never know, right? Doesn't the last year show you how much you're not in control of anything that goes on, right? At all.
Yeah, and we definitely have a lot of estates where we're trying to administer a will or a trust or something someone did themselves, or maybe they did with an attorney that didn't really know that area of law. And then we have all sorts of unique issues that come up where, they probably, from their perspective, it seemed like a really logical way to set things up. But in practice, looking at how the law applies, how they wrote things, can be a real mess.
It doesn't really work the way they thought it was. Do you have any, I guess, just kind of a general advice? Someone's moving here and maybe they kind of want to get their act together. What should they do? What should be their first step, other than to call you, obviously?
Yeah, so they should get together an idea of what they own, how they own it, and who the people they're trying to benefit are. So that's something where, an attorney can help you put together that list of items. But if you want to just be proactive before you meet with an attorney, you can have a better understanding of, what might happen without an estate plan or what your options might be with an estate plan. So it's good to have an idea of what you're working with, and then meet with an attorney that has experience specifically in trusts and estates, because a lot of times we'll see someone who, maybe they plan an estate once a year or once a month. And there's a big difference between the level of expertise that they're going to have versus a law firm that does nothing but trust and estates work. So that's usually your best bet, is to get someone who's really well versed in it, because then they can handle any of the unique situations that you might have where another attorney might never see those issues come up.
Yeah, and you know what? We have kind of the same thing in the tax world. Estate and trust taxes are their own beast, right? If it's not something you would necessarily take to an H&R Block, not to knock H&R Block, but it wouldn't be my first recommendation if you have a trust return you need done, find the cheapest, lowest place, because you don't want to mess that up.
Yeah, exactly.
Problematic.
And these are serious consequences. It could be a really big unexpected tax bill or penalty, or from the estate side, things can end up going to the wrong people, or, getting subject to additional taxes that weren't necessary if they had planned in advance. So, it can make a big change in someone's life.
Every once in a while you hear those crazy stories, people want to leave their house to their pets. Is that something you can do in Florida?
Yes, Florida is one of a handful of states that will let you have a pet, a dog, a parrot, a horse, as the beneficiary of a trust. So, it sounds kind of silly, but especially for people who don't have human children, their animals are like family to them, and they want to make sure that they're going to be taken care of. So they may set aside a certain amount of money to cover veterinary care, food, lodging expenses, anything like that. And then whatever amount the animal doesn't need, then usually pours over to, a charity that supports animal rescue or something like that.
That's such an interesting thing, because make jokes about it, leave everything to the dog, but I guess in Florida you actually can, which leads me to another question, but you might have answered it in there. So if somebody doesn't have anyone they want to leave their assets to, what do you generally see? Do they generally leave it to a charity of some sort?
Yeah, so if they really don't care at all, they don't have to do anything. And there's default rules in the state of Florida where it'll, get it usually to your closest living family member. But for most people, they have at least some sort of a preference, even if it's just charities that are important to them, friends, life partners, animals. So there's a lot of different options depending on, what you want to see happen. Another thing people ask me a lot is if I don't have someone that I trust to be in charge of my estate.
That was going to be my next question. But if you have nobody that you want to, I don't want them in charge for sure. My good for nothing child, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because it does require a certain amount of organization and rule following and things like that. So even if your family members aren't going to be a responsible choice, you can choose a family member, you can choose a professional trustee, you can have an attorney serve in those kind of roles. So there's options if there wasn't someone, in your immediate bloodline that you think would be a good choice.
All right, Jen, I think we covered a whole lot of topics. I appreciate so much that you came on. I have one last question. And let me know, because I have known you for a long time, and I know we do have some shared hobbies. But do you have any like weird hobbies I don't know about, or something interesting about you I don't know about already?
Yeah, so I think the audience deserves to know that we share a love of line dancing, and really all things country dancing. So
Uh oh, now they all know.
so when
Now they
the
know.
pandemic subsides, hopefully we can get out on a dance floor again soon.
Yeah, I've been a couple times. I will say it's hard to do some of those more like jumpy athletic line dances with a mask on. It's not really that fun.
I can't even imagine. It's a serious workout.
Right? Like on its own, I'm like dying because I'm not so young anymore and trying to like drink and line dance at the same time. But now I'm like, I'm good for like one dance and then I have to like rest for 10 minutes. So hopefully post pandemic, anyone who needs like tax and estate planning advice and likes line dancing, you can meet us at the roundup.
Perfect.